everybody. I'm Pat Patterson. Welcome to this week's Discount Auto Parts Race of the Week. They call it a Southern sport, but it's drawing the very best drivers from all across the United States to battle in America's richest short track series, the Hooters Cup. Well, tonight, the series championship battle is on everyone's mind in Mobile, Alabama. All the action is up next, brought to you by Discount Auto Parts. Go with the pros you know.
It's a part of the legacy of the South. A great deal of heritage is involved in stock car racing. For in the South, it's where it was all born. The challenge is often an oval, paved with asphalt. Tonight, there are no walls to retain these drivers. Thus, they may go off the racetrack and into the outer limits. Hello, everyone. I'm Bill Hennecy, and welcome to Mobile International Speedway for tonight's Hooters Cup race. It's the Cape Canaveral Cruise Line's 250. Joining me on tonight's telecast is race driver Eddie Sharp. It's interesting that there are two races here, one for the checkered flag and one for the championship.
Yes, there definitely is two races here. What you've got is 3 races to go. You've got 5 guys mathematically in the hunt for the points title. That's $100,000 at the end of the season. Then you've got a few guys, quite a few, that are yet to win a race this year that have definitely run strong enough to be there. So you're going to see the guys that would normally make the very aggressive moves maybe back off a little bit, thinking about that big check. And then there's the guys that normally aren't quite as aggressive. They're going to go for it because they want that first victory, and there are only 3 races to go.
Interesting note, the man who leads the points chase is Billy Bigley. Billy Bigley has yet to win a race this year also. He's with the 3rd member of our broadcast team as he sits on the pole. Here's Doug Rice.
Okay, thanks a lot. Billy Bigley Jr. chasing the championship. He's first in points. And, Billy, this is your first pole tonight. Comes at a great time with 3 races to go in the season.
It really does, Doug. I mean, it's just one of those deals where we didn't come here expecting to get the pole at all. We unloaded today, had a pretty good race car. We made a few little changes and had, quite a bit better race car. But we were looking at the long haul. We think that the car is going to be better 30 or 40 laps into the deal. And, we went out there and, we run a pretty good lap there, and they come in and told me what I run. It was pretty exceptional because, like I say again, I didn't think that I could do it.
Can you keep it up there?
I think so. The car's really comfortable. I mean, we went out there on 75, 80 lap tires today, and the car was really, really comfortable and smooth. So, if little lady luck plays our way, hopefully we can keep it up there.
So Billy Bigley Jr., he'll be starting on the pole tonight, looking for every advantage that he can find while chasing that 1996 Hooters Cup championship.
When we return, we'll be introducing you to the rest of the starting lineup.
The Discount Auto Parts Race of the Week is brought to you by Discount Auto Parts. Go with the pros you know. And by Hooters. Hooters, a delightfully tacky restaurant.
When I buy auto parts, I want to talk to people who really know what they're doing. The parts pros at Discount Auto Parts. I depend on these folks, like Rich here. I know him, he knows me. He gets me the right part at the right price every single time. Discount Auto Parts. Everything I need for my car and my truck. Everything. The parts pros save me time and money because they're smart. And they're right down the block. You work on your car? Go with the pros you know.
Go with the pros you know at Discount Auto Parts.
At Hooters, our girls earn their wings every day.
Hooters, it's not just a restaurant, it's an adventure.
Welcome back to the Chevrolet Motorsports Hour of the Cape Canaveral Cruise 250. From Mobile International Speedway, on the pole on a Discount Auto Parts Fast Qualifier Award, going to Billy Bigley out of Naples, Florida, in the Royal Purple Chevrolet Monte Carlo. He's on the pole at 100.795 miles per hour. Flanking him is Jimmy Cope in the Miller Beer entry from St. Petersburg, Florida. Next on the grid, starting third, Matt Kenseth from Cambridge, Wisconsin, the Wagner Automotive entry. Freddie Query out of Mooresville, North Carolina, the Terminal Trucking entry, goes fourth, while fifth from Concord, North Carolina, is Rich Bickle. Sixth on the grid from Harrisburg, North Carolina, the DuPont Automotive entry is John Crow. Seventh on the grid is Mike Garvey out of Suwanee, Georgia, in the Coors Light entry. Dick Anderson goes off the grid eighth in a Pontiac from Wildwood, Florida. Ninth on the grid is Larry Raines from Cummings, Georgia, and 10th is Hal Goodson from Darlington, South Carolina, the defending All-Pro champion. And the rest of the starting field, Bubba Gale goes 11th, flanked by Eddie Mercer. Then it's Darrell Brown and Scott Carlson. Rookie driver David Jude goes 15th, flanked by the national champion of the Hooter Series, Mario Goslin. The next row is Jimbo Wilson and Tracy Goodson, then Jody Ridley and Ken Alexander. 21st is Wayne Niedecken. 22nd, Derek Kelly. Then there's Ricky Sanders, Shane Rice, Mike Harmon, Mike Fritz, Ronnie Sanders, and Gary Sullivan. And the final four onto the field, Randy Fox and Mike Hovis, along with Darrell Shelnut and Tony Walls. The field rolls over into turn number 4. We're set to come around to the green flag here. Dick Westfall, the Hooters flagman, is set to turn them loose for 250 laps here over this beautiful half-mile facility. A bit chilly this evening, but the green is flying and down towards the first quarter. Almost a dead heat, and then Billy Bigley jumps ahead of the outside front row starter, Mr. Excitement, Jimmy Cope. Joining me on tonight's telecast doing the pits will be Doug Rice, but here in the booth is a veteran race car announcer, and that is Eddie Sharp. Not only have you been calling the action, but you've also been driving these type cars, and nothing is more exciting than taking the green flag.
Yeah, only in the seat though, Bill. I mean, sitting up here is a lot of excitement though. But, you know, there was 11 cars went home from this show tonight, and 11 good race car drivers. 4 of note was Marty Lindley, who was last week's Miller Rookie of the Race down in Miami. Nevin Jenkins went home. Dwayne Dempsey, who's been running the entire series, has had some really bad luck. He didn't quite get it up to speed today in qualifying. And Jack Cook. Those are just 4 notables of 11 good race cars that went home.
Well, Jack Cook had finally wound up the fair season as he had traveled the circuit throughout the Midwest and to return to Daytona Beach, Florida, and brought a car here, but failed to make the show. 11 drivers loaded up and went home. It tells you just how competitive the Hooters Cup Tour is as we visit Mobile, Alabama, on the 18th stop of the season.
That's for sure. Boy, I'll tell you, Bigley is setting a pretty good pace. Jimmy is right on his heels. Those are 2 very hungry guys. You got 2 total different approaches there. You've got Bigley, who's trying to win the points championship, who's doing everything he's got to do, and he's still hungry for that first win because he hasn't won a race yet. And you got Jimmy Cope, who he is hungry.
Mr. Excitement running in third place is Freddie Query out of Mooresville, North Carolina. Matt Kenseth rides in fourth. Those drivers have been putting on quite a show here in the opening laps of competition at Mobile, Alabama, as we see the field stream by the front straightaway. Billy Bigley, who's leading this race, is currently the points leader in the Hooters Cup Series. He would like to be the champion. He's being challenged now by Jimmy Cope. Billy has yet to win a race on the tour, but has all the points and is currently ahead of the championship chase. Quite unusual, don't you think?
It's very unusual, but yet it's not. Consistency is so important. He's had that. He hasn't had the dramatic turn of events of bad luck. Some of the other drivers in the top 5 have all taken their share of bad races. Mike Garvey had a dominant car last week, I believe it was, or 2 weeks ago in Rougemont. Got caught up in a wreck that wasn't his fault with some lap traffic. Billy has managed to dodge all. He was caught up in that wreck too, but he's managed to dodge a lot of the wrecks that would take him out for the evening, and that's the secret to it.
Well, Billy now going to a very conservative mode here in the early laps as he drops back to 4th place, allowing Freddie Query by, and then Matt Kenseth. So Kenseth moves to 3rd. Bigley has fallen to 4th place. Mobile, Alabama, an unusual racetrack, a half mile in length, banking at about 16 degrees. both in the first and second quarters and third and fourth, but the unusual characteristic is there's no intimidating wall around this facility, which really lets a driver hang it out.
Yeah, some guys, will say that it's easier to go in there a little bit hotter than normal because you don't have the fear of the wall there. But to be honest with you, at least in my situation, I drive into the corner. It doesn't matter if there's a wall or not. I do what the race car seems to let me want to do, and I go from there. But it is kind of a nice feeling if you do get it a little in over your head that the odds of you being able to gather it back or maybe just going over the other side and driving back on does help a little bit.
Throughout the year, we've been hearing people tell us who watch these telecasts just how exciting the Hooters Cup is, perhaps the premier late model series in America today.
Oh, no doubt about it.
Another lead change there. Just that quickly, Freddie Query has taken over from Jimmy Cope.
Wow, that didn't take long. Freddie's another one. He was leading the points up until not very many races ago, and then he has gone through a tremendous streak of bad luck, and right now he just wants to get back on a consistent basis and get some good top 5 finishes.
Freddie Query has not visited Victory Lane since Memorial Day weekend at Hickory Motor Speedway in Hickory, North Carolina. Looks like he's back into top form, and the Terminal Trucking entry. Terminal Trucking, located just outside of Concord, North Carolina, very heavily involved in late model racing. And we were starting to talk about this being the premier series as we see his teammate now headed into the third quarter and around. That's Rich Bickle, also being sponsored by the same folks, Gene Eisenhower and the gang from Terminal Trucking.
Yeah, they've supported those two guys for quite a while around the Charlotte area, and then they've kind of ventured off into this traveling series. And, of course, Query's run the whole thing, and Bickle gets as many as he can when he's not driving the truck.
Series most exciting as we see a shower of sparks from one of the drivers who looks like he's going to go a lap down now as Freddie Query is flat down against the firewall. Looking at the battle for second place, which is right behind him, and that is Jimmy Cope and Matt Kenseth. Kenseth, rather interesting that he has a car that is sponsored by Wagner Automotive, and also they build the engines for this car. This is more or less a test bed for their V8.
Yes, Matt's run a lot of races up north, has been hooked up with Wagner for quite a while, and has always been a very competitive racer up north. And I think his plans for the future are uncertain right now, which direction he's going to go. But right now, he is concentrating strictly on winning this championship. He's very much in the hunt. He's not very far behind first place, and he's thinking about that $100,000 because he does this for a living.
The 7 car that was just passed was Darrell Shelnut. And Shelnut was real hot at Charlotte County, Florida, down in Punta Gorda. Recently won a race there and has been really dominating the Florida Pro Series as they ran at Charlotte County. Back in the old Hooters Cup competition this evening, he looks like he's not at top form at all as he's been passed and goes a lap down early in the competition. The yellow flag is waving, the first caution flag of the evening coming here at Mobile, Alabama. We'll take this break. There's more to come.
How far can you go? On $129, Cape Canaveral Cruise Lines will take you away. We'll take you on a classic Bahamas cruise and back in style. We'll show you 2 nights of sizzle aboard the beautiful Dolphin 4. We'll give you the adventure of a day on Grand Bahama Island. Enjoy the non-stop excitement and fine dining of a real cruise from $129 per person. Call us at Cape Canaveral Cruise Line. $129 will take you a long way.
When I buy auto parts, I want to talk to people who really know what they're doing. The parts pros at Discount Auto Parts. I depend on these folks, like Rich here. I know him, he knows me. He gets me the right part at the right price every single time. Discount Auto Parts. Everything I need for my car and my truck. Everything. The parts pros save me time and money because they're smart. And they're right down the block. You work on your car? Go with the pros you know.
Go with the pros you know at Discount Auto Parts.
There's a race within the race in Hooters Cup action, and now in second place in the points is Dick Anderson. Dick, did you expect to be there at this time of the season?
Well, naturally, that'd be more important than any of those victories. But to be honest, we didn't even expect to be in the hunt. The first half of the season was so bad for me. Not that we wasn't running great, but we just fell out of so many races while we was leading them and all. And if I finished right where I'm at right now, I'd be tickled to death and very thankful. But if we happen to get up there and make a run for that championship, then so be it.
17 races into the season, and Dick Anderson trails Billy Bigley by only 53 points. Back to green flag racing action. Freddie Perry is our leader. Jimmy Cope riding in second place. And Doug Rice is trackside with his crew chief.
Eddie, your boy Jimmy looks pretty racy out there tonight. It's got to make you guys feel really good to be back up in the front mixing it up for the lead.
Yeah, this Chevrolet Monte Carlo is running real good. It's just a little tired right now. We're going to get a little better here as the race goes on, we hope. And we're going to try to pit a little early and get back out to track position.
He's been able to stick his nose up under Freddie Query a couple of times out there and look for the point.
Yeah, he just wanted to sit there and ride for a little while, let Freddie go on out there and rear his tires out and stuff. We're going to try to save a little bit and have a little more for later on.
Now, you guys have been haunted with motor problems all year long, but I understand it's a brand new power plant.
It's a brand new automotive specialist, and we changed engine builders, and it seemed like we lost all the problems now, so we got a lot of hope in this one.
Well, obviously, they've chosen someone who knows how to build these engines in Keith Dorton, an automotive specialist in Concord, North Carolina. Eddie Sharp.
Yeah, no doubt about it. You know, it's really hard on the crew members as much as it is the drivers to go this long with a dry spell of not winning. I've known Eddie and Jimmy for a long time. We're both from the same neck of the woods. And it's really good to see them have a good run. Those two guys have been together so longer than most marriages last nowadays.
Well, Jimmy Cope may have asked his brother for a little advice, Mike Cope, in who he should turn to make sure he got reliable V8 power.
Yeah, Mike has been running another series. He's been running Keith Dorton's motors for quite a while. And I know that Jimmy also talked to him a little bit about the setup of the racetrack and how to set the motor up and the gearing and everything. And he was very instrumental in helping him get ready for tonight. And obviously, the information that Mike was able to pass along to his brother and to Eddie is definitely working.
Right behind Richie Bickle is Dick Anderson on the 92 car, and behind him is Mike Garvey. It's interesting to note that Dick Anderson's son recently won up at Nashville, Tennessee, picking up the big win in the All-Pro race, promoted by Bob Harmon.
Yes, he did. He just happened to have a little bigger gas tank than everybody else, and I believe that Dick was calling the shots for him in the pits, and when you got the master behind helping, something good's going to happen.
Well, Dick Anderson certainly masterminded that win because they snookered everybody that captured the checkered flag. So he and his son have been victorious this year, especially here in the Hooters Cup Series. The 92 car, Dick Anderson, the driver, has scored 5 wins this season. The driver right in front of him in a Dodge has also scored numerous victories. And, of course, that's Rich Bickle. Bickle has 2 victories on the season coming into this event. There were actually 3 victories on the season coming into this event tonight.
Yeah, and there was a few of those races I wasn't sure he could very well have about 5 victories the way he's run all season. He's running real good now. He's a smart racer. He's buying his time. You know, they're all waiting for that first pit stop to get an adjustment on the race car. They're hoping they guessed right for this night run, but he's running real well, and so is Anderson. Nobody's really getting away from anybody.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the cars. You see a Dodge and a 97 Pontiac right behind him, and then a Monte Carlo. So we have a Chrysler Corporation automobile and 2 General Motors. And it's interesting to note that a lot of these drivers want their cars to have such great looking appearance. Take a look at the graphics package on those 2 cars. The 43 car, the Dodge of Rich Bickle, of course, is very reminiscent of Richard Petty's car. And the car right behind him, the Pepsi machine, is, of course, Dick Anderson's mount for the season.
Well, they're all good-looking cars, and you're right. The graphics on these cars is very important. You know, there's companies that are getting involved, bringing sponsorship. You know, the notoriety that this series is bringing to these drivers. And, you know, a good-looking race car and to take care of your stuff is part of the whole package.
Freddie Query starting to move up on some traffic. We look a little further back in the pack as the cars stream by here on the front straightaway and back down towards the first quarter. There's always plenty of racing action. And the car that you see back there is one of the Sanders cars. I believe that's Ronnie Sanders in the 18, the bright red machine. The lighting not exactly super this evening, so it's sometimes difficult to see the car numbers and who's in which machine. There goes Sanders, and right behind him is the car of Larry Raines.
And now there's a driver who is right on the brink of having a really good run. He's been up there battling at the last few races. He's had some strong runs. He's had some very bad luck. This could be another night of like I said, this could be a first-time winner's night. He's one of them that could be up there.
Plenty of action all the way around the racetrack here. This is a beautiful half-mile oval. Mobile International Speedway right here in the heart of Dixie, and that's where tonight's Hooters Cup racing action is originating from, in the Cape Canaveral Cruise 250. Freddie Query is up front where he likes to be, and he's pulling away from second place. As a matter of fact, he is really dialed in, Eddie.
Yes, he is. It's early in the race, and he is setting a blistering pace. Eddie Brand, the crew chief for Jimmy Cope, hit it earlier. They're going to ride. They're probably setting strategy already. I'll bet you they're going to try to run this on one stop. So he wants to make sure he's got plenty of tire under him to get him to that midway point.
Tony Walls, the 81 car, right in front of him is Mike Hovis on the 39. Hovis, of course, racing for Greenwell Klein Racing. And you wonder what they're involved in? Well, you've heard the names before in Major League Baseball. And they obviously like auto racing. And he gets a little nudge from Tony Walls. Hovis checks his rearview mirror and sees that 81 car looming up on him because Walls wants to go by, and finally he drives to the high side of the racetrack. And Hovis has to check up just a bit as he looks in his rearview mirror, and there is Freddie Query. That's why Walls wanted to get by him. He didn't want to go a lap down.
That's it. It's so hard to make up a lap with these guys. They are really setting a good pace, and now he's going to have to pick up the pace. He has every right to drive as hard as he can. They're coming up on a lot of traffic right now. That's going to make it tough. Whoever gets the break here is, Query's hoping he makes the wrong move and gets out of the way, and Walls is going to do everything he can to move the lap traffic out of the way.
Well, Shelnut gave up the position and let them go on by. Walls trying to go to the high side of Derek Kelly, the Discount Auto Parts entry. And he's going to be blocking the racetrack for the progress of Freddie Query, as Query is there now. And it looks like the yellow is waiting once again, so that'll save those two drivers from going a lap down. So the yellow waiting again here at Mobile International Speedway. Dick Westfall has it out. Pace car will be coming out on the track in just a moment. On a cool night, we'll return with more hot racing action in a moment.
When I buy auto parts, I want to talk to people who really know what they're doing. The parts pros at Discount Auto Parts. I depend on these folks, like Rich here. I know him, he knows me. He gets me the right part at the right price every single time. Discount Auto Parts. Everything I need for my car and my truck. Everything. The parts pros save me time and money because they're smart. And they're right down the block. You work on your car, go with the pros you know.
Go with the pros you know at Discount Auto Parts.
G'day, mates. Have you heard the good news? There's a new kid in town. The Jackaroo Australian Steakhouse. Serving up the biggest, juiciest steaks in town. Topped with thick, tangy Jackaroo barbie sauce. Chicken, shrimp and ribs are sizzling on the barbie too. Now those Jackaroos can fight over the sauce and the steak. So come in from the outback and sit down to a great meal and a great sauce at Jackaroo Australian Steakhouse.
Tonight's racing action coming to you from Mobile International Speedway. It's the Hooters Cup Late Models, sanctioned by USA Racing, the Cape Canaveral Cruise 250. We should be coming off another caution here, as we've had a lot of them this evening. There's your leader, Jimmy Cope. We had a round of... Whoa, there's a spin right there. Richie Bickle along with Freddie Query getting together. Query going around onto the road into the pits. And the 8 car, these two teammates getting together coming off of the fourth quarter. Query's car is stalled.
Yeah, boy, it doesn't take long. You know, that's a scary time. Here we're going to see it on the replay. Tires are cold. They've been under caution for a long time. The guys everybody's getting antsy, got to get going. Looks like Bickle got into the back of Query, sent him around. He may have got a little better traction than Query did, and away he went for a ride.
Well, there's damage on Bickle's car also, as we saw the tire rub right across the nose section of that Dodge Avenger. Lights have been extinguished on the pace car, and looks like Dick Anderson is all over the racetrack on the restart.
I'm not sure if Jimmy had lost a lap in the pits, because they were starting side by side, and we're showing Anderson as the leader. So Jimmy must be getting back on the lead lap. He must have had a problem in the pits and lost a lap at one point in time or the other. But he's now on the tail end of the lead lap, and that is what he needs a caution now to get back around to catch the field, because he's a dominant car. So he did not go a lap down on the racetrack.
Well, Dick Anderson there trying to fight off Richie Bickle, and Freddie Query right behind him. But Query is a lap down now. And Query moving up onto the quarter panel and moving to the inside of Rich Bickle. Bickle, of course, the Wisconsin driver that moved down to Concord, North Carolina, and established his shop. The RBR Racing Enterprises builds a lot of short track chassis for various drivers. Query is able to go by him. The way that we're viewing the lead right now, that is Dick Anderson, as we see a shower of sparks from behind the Jimmy Cope car.
An update from scoring is showing Raines running second, Darrell Brown running third, Scott Carlson fourth, and Bickle is running fifth. There's such a jumble with cars pitting, cars not pitting, cars getting back on the lead lap, the tail end of the lead lap. So it gets a little confusing, but that is what scoring is showing right now.
Well, we certainly have had a lot of action. A lot of cars visited the pits in this last round of cautions. So when they came rolling back out, some of them didn't exactly roll back into their proper track position, but they are on the racetrack battling to get back onto the lead lap. Many of the drivers who ran in the lead serial during the opening laps of this contest.
Definitely. The way the pits are structured on this racetrack, it can make it quite confusing because you can come back out and gain or lose a lap by pitting if you're not careful. So that seems to be what has happened. But Cope and Anderson are having no trouble getting back out in front of the actual leaders on the track and maintaining their status on the lead lap.
Well, we take a look now at Darrell Shelnut as he is being passed on the outside after getting back into the contest in the 7 car. Had his problems with a tire that was rubbing on a sway bar, and obviously that has been corrected. They also go by the 6 machine, which is out there running once again. That's Derek Kelly, one of the rookie drivers from Auburndale, Florida. Cope leads this trio of cars down through the first quarter and off the second quarter, but Dick Anderson, who has found himself in victory lane a lot of times this season, 5 to be exact, winning the most recent race down at Hialeah, Florida, is on the heels of Freddie Query there as Query is giving chase to the Jimmy Cope machine.
Yeah, Query was shown 2 laps down. He's now gotten one of those back. Those 3 cars are on the, 2 of them are on the tail end of the lead lap. One of them is now only 1 lap down. So Query is running for everything it's worth to at least stay no more than 1 down.
Call must go out to the 83 car. Bubba Gale out of Irvington, Alabama, having a pretty good run here this evening as he has positioned his car right there in the top 5 and in battling Richie Bickle off the second corner in the Keller Smith entry.
Now, I'm not sure if he's a lap down or not. Scoring's not showing him in the top 5, but he is having a good, strong run right now, and you're right, credit goes due because he's managed to work on that car and that UniFirst car and get it handling a lot better, showing a little smoke there, but he's running right in the tire tracks of Bickle. That's a pretty good guy to follow and learn from.
Bubba is running on the lead lap at the present time, having a good run here this evening for one of the local Alabama runners. And look at this battle a little further up the racetrack. And it's going to get hot and heavy. Meanwhile, the 18 car down on the inside of the racetrack, Ronnie Sanders, running a bit slow. Looks like he's limping around the racetrack and will possibly be back into the pits here in his Chevrolet Monte Carlo. A lot of wounded cars trying to get around Mobile International Speedway for tonight's Cape Canaveral Cruise 250.
Well, this is when it starts happening. You've inched up on the halfway mark. Car preparation, you know, it's real hard. You can see some sparks coming from the right front wheel from that car. So this track requires a little bit of brakes, and you may find some of the cars starting to show wear.
Well, it's a fast racetrack. Average speed over 100 miles per hour. Getting around this racetrack in sub-17-second laps. No wall around this racetrack to intimidate these drivers of the Hooters Cup Series. Jimmy Cope checks his rearview mirror, and there is Freddie Query right there, filling it up with his Chevrolet Monte Carlo that has some damage on it. And when he and teammate Richie Bickle got together just a few laps ago.
Well, they've been known to trade paint once or twice. I don't think it's anything on purpose, but they both race extremely hard. When they're on the racetrack and they're under green flag, they're not teammates. They're racing against each other.
Those 2 drivers go by Mike Hovis along with Derek Kelly as they move out of the fourth quarter now and onto the front straightaway. Query, of course, would like to have won the national championship this year. It's not out of the question that he could very well do it before the season is over as he works on the rear bumper cover of Jimmy Cope. Now, these 2 drivers could probably exchange blows because they can handle their race cars. I mean, they can fly. Look at Query right down at the bottom of the racetrack. He is all elbows, sawing that steering wheel on this machine, being fielded by the folks from Terminal Trucking.
Yeah, both those guys are more at home probably behind the wheel of that race car than they are anywhere. And if you asked either where they want to be, that's where it's at.
This is a big, wide racetrack. It's got a great groove around it, especially as the drivers come down the front straightaway and dive over into turn number 1. They are really carrying a lot of speed. Query, coming off the second quarter, though, skates around just a wee bit.
Yeah, that's what makes it. When the racetrack's that wide, you can tend to drive the car in there and do a little bit of testing here and there.
Oh, because they're in traffic now.
Yeah, but as you can saw with a wide racetrack, plenty of room. Didn't upset them that bad. Like I said, you can drive off in the corner. You got a little bit of a cushion. If you get in a little hot, go ahead and chase the car up the racetrack, get it back under control, try it again the next lap.
They're coming up on the back of Ken Alexander now, one of the Rookie of the Year candidates in the 03 car. And, of course, that is sponsored by his very own company, Greased Lightning Cleaner. Greased Lightning made up right outside of Clemson, South Carolina, for the driver who wheels this car on Saturday nights, and usually we find him at a horse show on the off weekends, as he has a beautiful number of show horses that he likes to take around the country. He says his two avocations are racing and horses.
It's a pretty good combination, huh? A little bit of horsepower both ways.
That's for sure. Here's Matt Kenseth. Kenseth looking for a good run here this evening. Kenseth, always a tough competitor. And Dick Anderson looks like he's slowing down. Problems on the Pontiac for a driver who was in a position this evening to gain in points over Billy Bigley, who was faltering. And the yellow flag is out. There's more to come on the Discount Auto Parts Race of the Week from Mobile, Alabama.
Until you try to win a championship, you think it's no big deal. But then you find out how tough it really is. And you realize you can't gamble on anything. Not on the car, not on the engine, and certainly not on the tires. You just got to go with the best. Goodyear Eagles, the proven winners.
Goodyear, #1 in racing, #1 in tires.
It isn't easy winning one of these things. And without Goodyear, it's almost impossible.
My barbecue sauce has the big, bold taste that really makes barbecue taste great. Barbecue sauce. That's not barbecue sauce. This is barbecue sauce.
Jackaroo barbecue sauce. Big taste from a big price.
The action continues here with the Discount Auto Parts Race of the Week, originating from Mobile, Alabama. Eddie Sharp, Freddie Query has had to play catch-up ball since he had his problems with the spin earlier in the competition. He would like nothing better than to get those laps back that he is down as he pulls to the inside of Jimmy Cope, our race leader.
He's definitely had a car fast enough to run with the top 5 and stay on the lead lap. That incident hurt him. He just hasn't. Jimmy's been so good this last part of the race that he just hasn't had quite enough to get by him to get that lap back. So I believe he's one down, and you've got Cope and Kenseth going at it hard.
Well, let's remind everybody that our halfway leader was the driver who's riding in third place at the present time, and that's Darrell Brown, the 58 car, a former All-Pro champion. So he picked up $1,000 in bonus money from the folks at Hooters.
And that always helps a trip home, knowing you got that little extra in the pocket.
It sure does. The drivers on the outside lane of traffic, of course, are in the lead lap. Everybody else is trying to get back into the lead lap. And right now, Freddie Query's on the tail end of the lead lap with Jimmy Cope as your leader. Cope in the 15 car, Query in the 8 car. They head down the back straightaway. Rich Bickle is also being shown a lap down in the 43 Dodge Avenger.
Yeah, Jimmy's car seems to get better the longer he runs, so it probably takes him a lap or two to build air pressures up in the tires, get the stagger adjusted to where it'll self-adjust itself with the bleeders and the wheels, and I got a feeling you're going to see him running right back down.
Very quick racetrack here, located in the heart of Dixie. Jimmy Cope's probably having the best run he has had all year long. He had a good run similar to this one down at New Smyrna Raceway and was involved in a crash. But tonight it looks like he's pretty well got it dialed in, and he's tried to keep his car from being involved in any of the on-track skirmishes so far.
Well, that is the secret to finish. You must first finish before you can finish first. And right now he's sitting in the best seat he's been in a long time to win his first Hooters Cup race of 1996. And that's what he's thinking. He has put Query back a lap down, as you knew. I knew it wouldn't take him long. Once that car comes in, it is really a rocket.
Darrell Brown having a good run this evening in the 58 car. We're showing Mike Garvey now also a lap down in the Coors Light machine, car number 42. Of course, he's in the top 5 in points. The points are so valuable in Hooters Cup competition because there's a $500,000 plus payout being sponsored by the folks at Red Dog Beer. And we're getting down to the closing rounds of all the action in Hooters Cup competition that is sanctioned by the United Speed Alliance, a sanctioning organization that came out of Central Florida that ran the racetracks around Auburndale, Lakeland, New Smyrna, DeSoto Speed World, and of course over at Bradenton.
Yeah, I ran a few of those races when that series first started. It has been quite a few years ago, and it's been a good series. I've seen a lot of drivers come up and out of it, a lot of drivers stay with it. And when the joint venture of the Hooters people and the USA Series people, Don and Lyndon Nerone and them, and got all together, it really has come together, made for a great series. And that's what you're seeing now. You're seeing some fantastic competition, hard driving, and this is what short track racing is all about.
Well, it takes a competition director to keep everything smooth. And of course, the man that runs the show is Don Nerone, but Fritz Augustine is the guy that actually techs these cars and keeps the parity among these drivers on an equal playing field.
Well, that's the guy you hope to make him your best friend in the pit as far as a guy like me, the racer, standpoint. He's hard to slide something by. Fritz has been around it a long time. He's pretty sharp, and you just better show up ready to go and legal, because if it's not, he's going to catch you.
Some of the drivers moving up a little higher on the racetrack coming out of the fourth quarter now, perhaps picking up a little better speed, but at the same time they could be running on worn right rear tires. That's one thing you have to be very careful of. You don't want to burn the right rear off of these tires, because once you do that, the car is going to go strictly loose.
Yeah, if you move up the racetrack, sometimes that'll keep the car from getting in a bind, and sometimes you just get a little bit extra out of that. You can see Query there really putting the heat on him, wants that lap back, but I'm sure that Jimmy's going to keep him back there, because he knows if he gets back on the lead lap, he's capable of running with him, and he certainly doesn't want him up there.
Jimmy has been smitten this year. He has not had any luck at all, and there's Jody Ridley, the man that has won more All-Pro championships than anyone else, riding right behind Billy Bigley. Of course, Bigley not up to full song now, running on 7 cylinders here at this stage of the race, but Larry Raines having a good run here tonight in the Jana King entry. A white car with the black roof that's down to the inside now of Jody Ridley, who is running minus his hood.
Well, actually, I believe Bigley's on the lead lap, and so is Jody. And Larry Raines is one of those I spoke earlier in the show, that he was one that has really shown some horsepower, some patience. He's run really strong, and he was one of those sleepers I said was up for that first-time win tonight. So I wouldn't count him out just yet.
And the 54 car is Scott Carlson. Carlson from Pensacola, Florida, the advanced construction entry. And he goes to the inside of Billy Bigley. Bigley's car, of course, not running at full song like we told you. And we've got a spin out of the fourth quarter. A little lazy loop. No contact with anybody. And this is the car that has been confusing almost everyone in the grandstands. It has reflective numbers on it carrying the 88. It's actually number 188. That is Jimbo Wilson out of Mobile, Alabama, the Tides Inn restaurant entry. And now you can see the yellow stripe in front of the 88 that designates him as being car number 188. Hooters Cup always provides plenty of racing action. When we return, we'll have more green flag competition.
When I buy auto parts, I want to talk to people who really know what they're doing. The parts pros at Discount Auto Parts. I depend on these folks, like Rich here. I know him, he knows me. He gets me the right part at the right price every single time. Discount Auto Parts. Everything I need for my car and my truck. Everything. The parts pros save me time and money because they're smart. And they're right down the block. You work on your car, go with the pros you know.
Go with the pros you know at Discount Auto Parts.
the drivers who are competing here this evening, who have won before, Freddie Query, Richie Bickle, Matt Kenseth, Dick Anderson, Mike Garvey, have all won, along with John Crow. Of course, Crow is out of the action. So we may very well see a new face in victory lane this evening.
Well, I said that at the beginning of the show that I very much thought that tonight could be the night because points leaders are protecting their points. There's a lot of guys that are mathematically pretty much out of winning the points and haven't won a race, and it's time.
Freddie Query wishes he were not a lap down. He has a horse under him that's capable of winning a race here at Mobile, Alabama, as he continuously challenges the entry of Jimmy Cope. Jimmy Cope, the brother to Mike Cope, the All-Pro champion, and he elected to run the Hooter Series this year, picking up the sponsorship from Miller Beer. Of course, you'll find Miller at any of the Hooters restaurants across the nation and all the way out to Hawaii where they sponsor the Hula Bowl.
Well, I tell you what, that's a credit right there to Dorton Motors, because that is 2 Dorton Motors running up there, even though, we got another caution, Bill.
Bunch of cars going around down in the first quarter, 3 cars involved, one of those being the Darrell Shelnut car, Derek Kelly involved, and a third car, and if we'll zoom in, we'll pick up on who that is, that's starting to move away. Looks like it's Ronnie Sanders, or Ricky Sanders, rather, the 20 machine that has turned around. That's Ricky Sanders down on the inside once we get a little closer look at him. This, a violent crash going into turn 1, Eddie Sharp, and it looks like all the emergency personnel are on the scene attending to the driver, who is Jimbo Wilson.
Yeah, I think that's one time when Jimbo probably wished there was a fence there, because he would have probably glanced off the fence and come back down the racetrack. But the way it happened, he got airborne. These race cars aren't very high off the ground, so if you don't have mud tires and four-wheel drive capabilities, once you get down in there, it can get pretty ugly, and that's what happened.
Well, he launched himself off of turn 1. The car rode high into the air. Then it kind of nosed down. Then it took a wild tumble. And the emergency personnel, which are on the scene right now, early indications of what we're hearing from the USA officials here in the tower, that he appears to be conscious, and he's talking to the safety workers down there as we are under caution once again this evening at this very fine half-mile oval.
It's always a good sign when the driver's able to relay messages back to, and talk, and he's conscious. Here we go. We got a replay of it. You can see him. He's coming over. He's already been over once right there, and luckily the car does land right side up, but it was a violent impact.
And it's probably more than 75 yards away from the edge of the racetrack. So it's going to flame up as Jimmy Cope brings them back to the stripe. Dick Westfall waves the green flag, and we're back under racing action. Freddie Query back into the tail end of the lead lap once again as he drag races down to the first quarter and wins it over Jimmy Cope in the 15 car.
Well, it's deja vu as of the last restart. That's about what happens. Query seems to get a pretty decent jump, and Jimmy's car isn't quite perfect on the first lap, but it sure comes in awful quick. There he's already running back down, and it just seems it takes him a lap or so, and boom, he's right back underneath him again.
Well, Freddie had a lot of power, but he's also got a handling problem, because we can see him crossing his elbows as he's actually manhandling the race car through the corners.
Yeah, the car looks a little loose, and a driver of Freddie's caliber can hang on to a race car like that for quite a while. But even as good as he is, it's going to burn the tires off it. And as smooth as Cope is being and as good as his car's handling, it's just a matter of time before he just runs him right back down.
Jimmy Cope, our race leader here at Mobile International Speedway in Mobile, Alabama, taking a look very quickly there at the running order. Cope now slowing down on the racetrack, and the yellow flag is waving once again. Boy, have we had a rash of yellow fever in this event. It seems like that Dick Westfall's elbow should be about given out, along with his wrist, as he has flat waved that yellow flag throughout the evening. He has had quite a workout in tonight's Hooters Cup competition.
Yeah, he's probably going to be looking for a bucket of ice to stick his elbow down in by the time this thing is over. And even though it is a little chilly outside, you're right, it's got to be getting sore. And I'll tell you what, that pace car, I hate to see the laps winding, rounding on that thing.
Well, here's why the yellow is out. The 03 car, Ken Alexander out of Clemson, South Carolina, has lost a part of his left front suspension, and and the car is riding down on the A-frame with a shower of sparks behind it. It looked like this driver was going to have a real good run this evening.
Yeah, he started out a little rough at the beginning and went for a ride off at turn 4, and he's hung in there.
Ken Alexander brings his car into the pits, and what I thought was a suspension problem turns out to be a flat tire. So we're going to lift the car up, change the tire, and hopefully get Ken Alexander back into competition here.
He's pretty cool-headed.
Green flag waving. Ronnie Sanders came out of the pits in front of the leaders. Cope will go to the high side, followed by Kenseth as they go by Sanders down the back straightaway. This is the shootout for the marbles and the $15,000 it goes with the trophy and the checkered flag.
Yeah, I think it'd probably take about 400 guys and 13 tow trucks to get him off the bottom of the racetrack. He's going to do everything he has to do to protect the bottom. And the car's been handling all night. It's more than capable of keeping it there. And like I said, Jimmy, he's cool-headed when it comes to this point in the race. As long as the motors keep running, which this one is, this new Dorton motor has really done him a good job. And looks like that's what he's needed. I'm sure everything he owns is crossed right now.
Well, Larry Raines is back there in third place. Happens to be battling with Darrell Brown.
There's a guy we haven't said much about tonight, Jody Ridley. He's running up around fourth place right now, and he's been way past due for a good run. It sure is good to see him run good because he has had some bad luck.
Jody Ridley, he wants to pick up another position here in the closing laps of this contest. Darrell Brown was the driver who led halfway. As we see him go by through the shot.
Unfortunately, Darrell had lost a couple laps back about mid-race, and he had a good, strong car.
Whoa! Darrell Brown gets tagged in the side. Scott Carlson was into the inside of him. He loses positions now, and Jody Ridley went to the high side, Rich Bickle to the high side, Hal Goodson, and Billy Bigley. You can tell this is a very heated contest.
That was for position because Carlson's on the lead lap, and that just moved Bigley up to fifth place, which he's kind of hunted around there and stayed on the lead lap all night. He's had a little overheating problem, and he's doing what he's got to do to keep that points lead.
Well, all these drivers see the payoff within sight, so it's time to put the pedal down against the firewall there and do everything you can to keep those drivers behind you at bay and overtake the one who's directly in front of you. But Jimmy Cope's trying to pull away from Matt Kenseth.
You could plant tomatoes down in that grass where he's running. He's running so close to the bottom. That's what it's all about. I think the white flag's out. He's only got to do it one more lap.
And he heads down the back straightaway. I don't believe that Kenseth's going to have enough oomph to get by him unless he can pull it off coming out of the fourth quarter.
Boy, this is a moment he's waited all year for. This is what it's all about.
And all the bad luck finally turns to good luck here this evening. Maybe his luck has changed. He is happy. Hand out the window, and he is excited. He led 104 laps. Other drivers who were on the leaderboard at some point were Larry Raines, Billy Bigley, Rich Bickle, Freddie Query, and Darrell Brown. But the man who won, Jimmy Cope, he led the important lap.
When I buy auto parts, I want to talk to people who really know what they're doing. The parts pros at Discount Auto Parts. I depend on these folks, like Rich here. I know him, he knows me. He gets me the right part at the right price every single time. Discount Auto Parts. Everything I need for my car and my truck. Everything. The parts pros save me time and money because they're smart. And they're right down the block. You work on your car, go with the pros you know.
Go with the pros you know at Discount Auto Parts.
I'm gonna die. Toast. Almost died. Oh, Red Dog. I'm glad to see you, buddy.
Forget it. I ain't bailing you out no more.
But
Step aside, stranger. This don't concern you. Bold yet uncommonly smooth from Plank Road.
Second look at the checkered flag for this driver, his first of 1997. As he wheels around, picking up the victory here in his Miller High Life car. Let's go trackside with Doug Rice.
Well, look who found his way to victory lane in the Hooters Cup Series. Jimmy Cope, congratulations. You put him away here tonight in Mobile.
I'll tell you, I owe a lot of thanks to a lot of people, and especially Miller, Beer, McDonough, Plumbing, and the guys that prepare this car. You know, we had a perfect race car all night long. We fought a little bit early, but we come back with a second set of tires, and you know, I had a set that my brother gave me, and we put it, I mean, exactly to the number. And this race car was just phenomenal. And I can't say enough about the guys that prepare it and everybody that's involved in this team. Keith Thornton, automotive specialist. What a motor, buddy.
Now, Jimmy, you've been so close before in this deal. And I don't know how many times I've talked to you this year when you've gone out early in the pits. To have a car like this, to bring it home to victory lane, man, I know it's just got to be incredible for you.
Well, you know, it's like I said, it's many firsts. It was a perfect race car there the last half of the race, and our whole idea was to stop early and get track position. And track position was everything. And you know, my brother called me and told me, he said, "Jimmy, remember track position, track position." And you know, I got to thank him and Scott Sutherland, and you know, like I said, especially my wife and my two kids. I love them dearly, and I miss them a lot when I'm gone. You know, again, just one heck of a team, and these guys stuck together. They stuck behind me. You know, when we were down, we were all down. When we're up, we're all up.
So Jimmy Cope visiting Victory Lane here tonight in Mobile, Alabama.
Let's take a look at the entire top 15 finishers here at Mobile International Speedway. Larry Raines had a good run for third place. Another good run being put in by Scott Carlson from Pensacola, Florida. Bubba Gale, local driver, finishing 11th, while 15th is Randy Fox, and the top finishing rookie there, 13th, Mike Hovis from Fort Myers, Florida. And there's the way the man took the checkered flag. Jimmy Cope to claim victory here at Mobile International Speedway in this, the Cape Canaveral Cruise Lines 250. For Doug Rice and Eddie Sharp, I'm Bill Hennecy. For the Hooters Cup team, remember, we'll see you at the races.